Today we reflect on the readings for Friday, January 28th, the memorial of St. Thomas Aquinas. I'm sitting on the lawn just to the west of Wolfington Hall, the Jesuit residence. Behind me you'll see the athletic center, as well as a newly built enlarged tent created by the university filled with athletic equipment for the students to practice and to work out in a socially distanced manner. What an extraordinary expense this has been, but what extraordinary steps the university has taken to protect its students, faculty, and staff. A cavalcade of holy people has come our way this week. St. Francis de Sales on Monday, St. Paul and his conversion on Tuesday, Saints Timothy and Titus on Wednesday, and now St. Thomas Aquinas today. Of these saints, St. Thomas Aquinas inhabits his own category as a brilliant philosopher and theologian of the mid-13th century. Aquinas brought together the Greek philosophers, the Arab Muslim translators and commentators on Aristotle, and the Jewish philosopher Moses Maimonides into a unified system of thought that has dominated Western religious thinking for 800 years. Just one problem, though. When he had nearly completed his greatest work, the Summa Theologia, in late 1273, Aquinas received a divine intuition that halted his work. He reported to his assistant that I can write no longer. What I have written is no more than straw. His health began to fail, and he died several months later in 1274. What could this dire message have meant? For some insight, let's look at today's readings that Mother Church has chosen. In the first reading, the narrator prays for prudence and then wisdom. Prudence is the virtue that offers careful good judgment and the best mode of behavior in each circumstance. Wisdom is right judgment in accord with eternal law, seeing things the way God sees them. Perhaps Aquinas' work, brilliant as it was, failed to meet the criteria of Christian prudence and wisdom. In today's gospel, Jesus reminds his disciples that you have but one teacher, and you are all brothers and sisters. You have but one Father in heaven, and only one Master. The greatest among you must be the servant of all. So wisdom and prudence help us see that the greatest of the virtues is right relationship with ourselves, with other people, and with God, where the essence of relationship is love, service, and humility. Wisdom and prudence warn us against creating hierarchies of human beings, because hierarchies appeal to the human temptation to acquire and exercise power over other people. Hierarchies become oppressive in operation and rigid in thinking. Wisdom and prudence help us see the power of love as the motive force within and among human beings that binds all people with God, the source of love. Wisdom and prudence help us see that love and service call us to restraint in judging and speaking. When speaking too much truth in one place and time can damage human relationships and human community, including around the dinner table. Not every error of fact or perception needs to be called out in the moment. Silence is golden, and silence fosters relationships as well as speech. Somehow, our restraint and prudence in speech leave room for the Holy Spirit to work in everyone's heart, obscure as that may seem in the moment. This, perhaps, is the central failing in Aquinas' thought. Being right has its place, but being right is more elusive than it seems, and imposing one's view of the right damages more than it creates. In Aquinas' understanding, there are three components to moral decision-making: the act, the circumstance, and the intention. If one asserts, as John Paul II did, that the act of abortion is always wrong, then circumstances and intention are eliminated from the equation, and Aquinas' formulation, as well as prudence and wisdom, are rejected. If one asserts, as the hierarchy does, that contraception and sex education are unacceptable as means of preventing abortion, then a supposedly good action, condemning contraception and sex education, will have a negative effect, an increase in abortion. That which is right cannot be determined by formula, nor by appeals to authority automatically, in every case. The full consciousness of the individual in the community of believing disciples must be brought to bear. And the final proof will be the building up of relationships of the believing disciples within themselves individually, among themselves, and between themselves and God. One more thing. Last Wednesday's Gospel for the memorial of Timothy and Titus remind us that Jesus sends us out to share the good news of God's love and God's call to relationship and community. This sending out does not always entail a move to the street corner, nor to the soapbox in the living room to point out other people's faults. We are sent to people who suffer, and our service must be marked by prudence and wisdom, enriched and informed by the brilliance of Thomas Aquinas and so many other great thinkers, men and women in the Catholic tradition. Let's be inspired today by having so great a cloud of witnesses to our faith, who offer us their inspiration to thinking, to wisdom, prudence, and service in love.